Hello, this is Brainy Fox, and you're listening to the Brainy Fox podcast, where you can hear all about my swinging adventures, my scandalous lifestyle, and hear all the other fun stories that I have to tell. Enjoy! Please note that the adult nature of this podcast makes it inappropriate for people who are under 18. Sorry, kids. Hello, and welcome back to my show. This is Brainy Fox, and I'm excited to be here with you. So I think today I'm going to tell my tales from Naughty and Nollins, which is an annual swinger-themed convention that happens in New Orleans it's in 3 hotels now. So there's a main hotel, and there's an overflow hotel, and then an overflow hotel. And basically, people come from all around the world to attend this, and it is really, really swinger-centric. So there are a lot of resorts, and there are events that are topless or lifestyle friendly, but these are swingers. These are people who are serious about the lifestyle and know what they're doing. And so it was really great to be among people who really, really get me and aren't just necessarily curious. It isn't the sort of thing you would go just to sort of observe, which I thought was really great. And I've honestly always wanted to go to this. And I was really excited that I had the opportunity to go. And it ended up happening sort of at the last minute. And the best part is it was on a first date. So I actually have 2 stories about going on a first date to a swinger event. But this one is the better of the 2. And basically what happened was I was single, and I actually do my best, online dating on swing and lifestyle friendly websites. So I was going through my mail at swinglifestyle.com, and I was, I get a lot of mail. So, but I have to say, okay, so I just need to go on a tangent. As a single female on lifestyle websites, as well as other dating websites, I get a lot of mail from men who become impatient and angry. So the really nice thing about the lifestyle websites is that you get a lot less anger. People are just really sort of resigned to everybody's here for the same reason, and it's cool, and you should relax. But I still do get a lot of volume of email because I'm reasonably attractive and I'm a single female, which apparently makes me a commodity. But a lot of couples are interested in having a female, and threesomes are fun, but it's not really my main thing. I generally, and I probably will say this every time I do a podcast, I sort of prefer personally for the number of men to outnumber the number of women in an encounter. Just my preference. I like penises. So, anyway, I was going through my messages, and I was getting, rather discouraged about my personal life. And I got this really articulate, friendly message from a gentleman who lived across the country from me. Yeah. But he had clearly read my profile and made a whole point of saying, addressing several points in the profile and saying what was, appealing about him. And he was thoughtful and articulate and not aggressive. And something about him just made me want to reply. And to be honest, I get, dozens of emails a day, sometimes more. And I just don't have time to respond to all of them. I'm maybe get back to 2 people a day. And this is every day. So I wrote back, and we went back and forth, and we chatted a little bit, and we realized that we actually had lots and lots of things in common. And he didn't find any of my preferences for dating or the lifestyle to be off-putting. So I found that I have, I don't want to say extreme tastes, but I have very non-traditional views about relationships and the structure of relationships and what dating should look like and just sex in general. And so people seem to initially find that sort of interesting, but a lot of them ultimately can't actually be okay with everything that I've laid out very carefully in my profile to avoid exactly that. Anyway, he seemed really excited by all of it. And in fact, the more I brought up during our chats, the more enthusiastic he became, which I thought was really promising. So, yay. So we talked on the phone, which was a big step, right? When you do the internet dating thing, you're like, okay, we're going to talk on the phone now. It's like a big deal. So we talked on the phone, and we decided that we were going to make plans to get together. And we both like to travel, and we both liked lifestyle events, and we had all these things in common. And I'd said that I would just come out to visit him for like a weekend. And it's been a crazy summer. I've had so much going on, and like work has been crazy. And so in the end, I had some like a family visit that I wasn't expecting. And so I actually couldn't go. So he said, hey, you know what, forget it. Let's just go to, you can come out this other weekend. And the next time we spoke, he said, you know what else is that weekend? It's Naughty and Nolans, and we should just go there. So I said, absolutely. Yes, we should definitely just go there. That would be great. So we did have the hurdle that the first time we were going to meet would be in this sort of overwhelming setting where there would be like a hotel and swingers, and there's a parade of half-naked people, and, everyone's sex positive. I'm kind of all about that. I thought it was great. So we set it all up, and he had actually been to the event several years before, or like for the several years before. And I had always wanted to go. So I was kind of relieved that I would be with someone who'd been there before. I thought it would be great. And he seemed to share a lot of my views about everything, actually. So I was kind of excited. So I got on my plane, and there was this sort of dramatic moment where it looked like my first flight was definitely delayed, and it looked like it was going to cause me to miss my connection. And the only like subsequent connecting flight wasn't until like really late at night. And so instead of getting there at 4 p.m, I wouldn't have gotten there till like 10, which would have been kind of a bummer. And also I didn't want to spend those 6 hours in an airport. So my first flight lands, and I'm running through the airport like a crazy person. And the woman at the gate that I'm going to, I can see her waving at me and laughing. And she's like, you can stop running now. So I made it on my plane. She said there were supposed to be 2 people behind me, but I don't think they actually made it on the plane. They like closed the doors after me, and we took off. And the flight itself was uneventful, which is, I guess, not particularly important, but I made a lot of sweet small talk with people who definitely did not appear to be going to Naughty and Nolans. There was like a mother who was going to see her kid play baseball, and there was someone else who was visiting family, and I sort of had this like wicked, sort of guilty, like kind of, hilarious feeling of like, oh, if you had any idea what I'm going to be doing this weekend. And it turned out that the woman who was sitting next to me, who was going to the kids' sports game, was actually scheduled to be on the same flight back with me. So I was hoping I didn't look, guilty on my way home. Anyway, we'll get back to that. But we landed, and I got my luggage, no problem. Everything was great. And I got into my cab, and the cab driver was kind of this like hip young dude who I got the distinct impression was just like, didn't feel like making small talk with me, because I was trying to be like chatty because I was just in the mood, I guess, to talk to somebody, and he just wasn't really that on board. But as we got into the French Quarter, it became apparent that the sexual freedom parade was happening. And this is where everybody from the convention who's there early enough wears white, skimpy white, and parades through the French Quarter with signs that say like, I'm a swinger, and like sex positive and sexual freedom. And I'm a little nervous about being on camera for those things, but like it looked really fun. So there were all these people that were coming, walking past the car, because we sort of got stopped as we got into the quarter, and I could see the hotel, the main hotel that the event was at. And there were all these people like throwing beads off the balcony, and then there was this parade of like half-naked people in white going down the street. And I said, hey, those are the swingers. Like it just sort of came out. And the cab driver said, what? And I said, yeah, there's a convention this weekend for swingers. And he's like, oh, yeah, I heard about that. He's like, wait, how do you know about that? And I had to chuckle to myself. Like, do I look that matronly, that innocent, that I would totally not give off the appearance of coming to a swingers convention? There's pros and cons to that, but I did think it was very funny. So finally the parade passes. I think I sat in the car for 20 minutes, but I didn't know where I was going and I had big luggage, so I wasn't going to just get out and walk the last 3 blocks. So he drops me off in front of the hotel, and, I'm trying to coordinate with my date so he can come down and meet me at the car. And so he meets me, and it's great, right? So then there's this tension, like, this is the first time we've seen each other in person. And so we were both sort of relieved, but then it was still like, intense because we hadn't actually seen each other in person before. Lots of pictures, lots of naked pictures, but like no in-person contact. So I gave him a big hug and I caught my breath. Something about air travel is exhausting. And then we went up to the room, and we were in the overflow hotel that I mentioned earlier, because the main hotel sells out very quickly. And then the second entire takeover hotel sells out eventually too. So they opened up a block of room in this third hotel. Oh, this is where it gets weird. So they opened a block of rooms in this third hotel. So you have to be careful what you wear in the lobby and stuff, because it's not a takeover. So there's not all swingers in the hotel, which was weird. It's not optimal, but we still wanted to go. So we just took the room. So as we get there, we realize that there are a lot of people with, one of those health supplement pyramid scheme situations. They had like t-shirts on, and I remember having noticed a lot of those people on the plane at the same time, and they had pins on that said things like "lose weight, ask me how," and I don't know, I just think that's really tacky. And also, if you're gonna wear a pin like that, like, you had better be in good shape, and a lot of them weren't. Judgy, sorry. So it turned out that there was a convention for that company in town the same weekend, which I thought was really funny. Anyway, so we go up to the room, and I'm trying to catch my breath. Because I'm a little frazzled, like something about travel, like I said. So I start unpacking my bag a little bit, and it was funny. We'd had this conversation, and he was telling people, because he had a lot of friends there, that all on the first day that we met, we would meet, share our first kiss, have dinner together, probably have sex with each other, and have our first swap. And so my response to his first time saying that to me was, "In that order?" And he said, "Probably not." So in the hotel, we made some small talk, and there was this momentary awkwardness, like, should we have dinner first? Like, what should we do? And we decided that was ridiculous, and we had sex, and it was great. It was really fun. So after that, I got myself pulled back together, because then I looked like air travel and sex. So I think I showered and made my hair pretty, and we got ready to go out. For some reason, it's customary for swinger events to have themes, and I love the themes. Like, I think it's one of my favorite parts, to sort of have a plan about what I'm going to wear. And I'm ridiculous about it. Like, I actually like to change my outfit a couple times during the night. So I love being at the hotel where the event's happening, so I can run upstairs, change my clothes, and then come back down and make another appearance in a cool new outfit. It's just my thing. I'm kind of an exhibitionist, which I might have mentioned. So the themes this year were not super standard, which was great, actually. So usually you think of cheesy themes like schoolgirls, or like office, or medical. And the medical one I think is weird. I object to that. And then what else? Oh, so then like Halloween is just a standard one. And every once in a while they'll have like, burlesque or something. So anyway, the themes this year were sort of clever. The first night was glow, which is pretty standard, but it's a good one. It's always really fun. And the second night, Thursday night, was Blue Bayou, which is kind of unusual to just pick a color, but it's nice because I think it's a little bit less pressure for the guys to get involved in it. And Friday night was Space, which I interpreted as sort of galaxy print. And then Saturday was Mardi Gras. And I guess every year Saturday is Mardi Gras so that everybody can do the whole masquerade thing. And rather, it was masquerade. And so everybody got to wear masks and do the whole fun, sexy thing on Saturday. But we had glow night on Wednesday. So I picked out like I had a really cute dress that was super blacklight reactive that I put on. And then my date, of course, had like actually light up suspenders and like a tie with lights in it. I was very impressed because a lot of guys don't really go all out for the themes. They just kind of are along for the ride, and the women sort of have to carry the theme. So I really appreciate it when my date makes a little effort, or better yet, is willing to let me dress him, which I did on the next 2 nights. So we got dressed in our neon glow things and got ready to head downstairs. And so we walked over to the main hotel where we had to register. We may have registered before dinner. I don't remember. But anyway, we walked around. We had dinner. We had a good time. We spent some time together. It was really nice. And then we came back to get ready for the glow parties in the evening. And so the main hotel actually had 2 large ballrooms. And so one of them had some kind of event where there was either like a comedian or a hypnotist or something. And then the other ballroom had like electronic music. So then later on, after the hypnotist was done, then there was the electronic music in one room. And then the other room had more like pop. So like top 40 kind of stuff. But out in the lobby area, there were some vendors. They had people doing body painting, and then there were the bars. And this was up on the ballroom floor. And then the other important bit about these swinger conventions is that there's always a designated play area. So there was an entire floor. I don't know if it was a floor, but it was like several wings with lots of different large open rooms in them that were just full of mattresses. And there was a team of people who would like run in and valiantly switch out the sheets and put new pillowcases on and everything and clean up like between play sessions. So like people would get done. I'll get back to that. So we came downstairs and we walked around and we made some friends. We met some people and it was really great. And so we ended up going to Colette, which is like an on-premise swing club that's always there in New Orleans, but it's kind of legendary. It's a place where if you're a swinger, you need to go check it out. And it's nice. There's, you walk in downstairs and there's like a dance floor and a bar and seating. And then upstairs is the play area. And they have it set up really in an interesting kind of way. There's rooms with just beds in them. And there are some couches. And there's this one interesting room with a bunch of windows. And inside of it is kind of a large stage/bed/platform. And so that's where you go if you want people to watch you. And so people watch you either in there or through the window. And then there's an additional room that's kind of secluded that has a bunch of different beds and surfaces to fuck on. And so we were a little disappointed to find that it was pretty dead, actually. I think everyone stayed at the hotel. And we, so we ended up sort of sitting down to see if we knew anyone, and there weren't that many people there. And we were approached by this couple, and he didn't say much. She was good looking. She was really hot, and she was pretty tipsy, but it was bizarre. So our interaction with them was pretty weird. So anyway, but they came and talked to us and were interested and were flirting with us. But then all of a sudden she exchanged phone numbers with us and then insisted that she needed to leave and come back. So after they left, I said, did they just blow us off, or were they being polite? Do you think they're coming back? Like, what is going on there? Because the guy that she was with looked a little uncomfortable too, like he wasn't really into it. So we decided that we were going to not risk it and we would leave. So we went back to the hotel, and it was beautiful. The weather was great. Like, it wasn't too hot. And you think New Orleans in July is going to be just gross. And it really wasn't bad. It was warm, but it wasn't gross at all. It was nice. So anyway, we made our way back to the main hotel and decided to go back and check out the playrooms. And I think the first night of an event like this is always a little, less comfortable, like people aren't quite ready to play. And here's where I knew that my date was a keeper, right? So you can take several different approaches to swinging and meeting other couples. And some people feel very strongly about having had some kind of relationship with the people that they're going to hook up with. Like, they like to have ongoing things. And I am all about that. Like, if you have friends that you're friends with and hooking up with them is just part of it, and you enjoy spending time and having drinks or dinner together, that's awesome. Like, I think that's amazing. But I also seem to be of the, I definitely am also of the mind that if you meet someone and they're hot and you just want to fuck, like, that's fine. Like, you totally, there's some, that has merit, damn it. Like, that's a good thing. So we were walking around the playroom, and that's kind of the vibe in there. You just walk around and you either end up there with people you know, or you meet people you know there, or you just go in there and you see people that are hot and like give them the eye and say, do you guys want to play? And they'll give you a thumbs up, or they'll like awkwardly say no thanks. But that happens. You have to learn to say no in the lifestyle. It's important. And then, you see what happens. So we went to the playrooms. So once we arrived at the playrooms, I got kind of a weird surprise. Like, I don't think I've ever actually had this happen to me at an event. And it wasn't personal, but they had a rule that you weren't allowed to wear street clothes in the playroom. So in other words, they handed you a bag and you had to take all of your street clothes off and either put on lingerie or just walk around naked or in your underwear while you were in the play area. So on one hand, I really appreciate this as, okay, it sort of sets the mood. It makes everyone equally vulnerable as far as nudity goes. But on the other hand, like, I generally wear really comfortable, accessible, sexy clothes with no undergarments when I go to swing parties because it's hot, like sexy, and it just makes things more simple, right? Like, if you have really complicated things going on, sometimes some of them get left behind. Like, it's just never, like this. It's my strategy to wear like a skimpy hot dress with no panties. I was happy to walk around naked. It was fine. So as we entered the place, we looked around. It was huge. So if you turned to the right, there was a long hallway that had bathrooms. And at the end of it, there was sort of a table that had water and towels and sex positive flyers. And then beyond that was a very large conference room that they had divided up. Well, basically, there were mattresses all across the floor, like huge, like just rows of mattresses. And between the mattresses, there were these like pretty sheer white curtains. So those could be moved out of the way if you wanted to see the people next to you, or you could sort of close them if you wanted a little bit of privacy. And I think there were explicit rules about how you were supposed to behave if the curtains were in certain arrangements. So in other words, if you approached a bed and all the curtains were drawn, even though they were sheer, you were more than welcome to stand around and sort of observe, but it was kind of rude to open the curtains or sort of barge in. It was sort of a message that you would send by closing the curtain saying, hey, we're all set. We have as many people as we want to be involved here, and we'll open the curtains when we're finished. And on the other hand, if you left them open, that meant that it was more reasonable for people to sort of approach you while you were playing and either ask to join or just watch. And I think for me, I struggled a little bit with that etiquette, but we'll sort of get back to that. I think that I personally have a hard time approaching people once they're already having sex. And I think I don't necessarily mind being approached while I'm having sex. I tend to be very distracted and inarticulate and clumsy when I'm having sex, but if my partner is willing to interact with other people, I'm fine with that. Like, it's okay. I understand that I'm an exhibitionist, right? I understand that we're at a party and that's kind of what happens there. But I also understand people who want like the environment, but don't necessarily want other people right up in their scene. So I get it. I think it's a good way to sort of manage that. Personally, I'm nervous to approach people once they're already playing. So we walked around and there were a lot of people playing and there weren't that many people walking around. And so we were trying to decide, do we want to play? Should we start playing with each other on a bed and see if people approach us? Like, do we see anyone here that we want to play with? Like, how do we handle this? And so it was kind of fun. It was like trying to find like a dance partner at the middle school dance, which is probably a terrible analogy, but that's kind of how it was, like just that degree of awkward excitement, So we walked around one room, we walked down a hallway to another room, and there were several hallways with large rooms. And there was one room that we heard from the host was like one of the most popular rooms at the event, which was completely no lights. It was completely free of light. So if you went in there, you weren't allowed to wear your glowing bracelet. Like, you had to take your watch off if it had a light up face. And you could go in there and you would have no idea who you were interacting with. Like, it was all touch. It was that dark. So on some level, I can see why that's exciting, but I tend to be very visual. And I also like to know who I'm having sex with, sort of. So at least visually. And so I never did make it into that room. Maybe next year. We'll see. Anyway, so we walked around and we said hello to some people, and we, recognized some people that we'd seen out dancing earlier. And ultimately, we ran into this cute couple. She had big boobs and a really cute smile, and her husband was kind of like muscular, and they were both attractive. And we crossed paths with them like 3 times during our like walking through the play area, which was huge, like I said. And so finally we ended up in this room, and they ended up in the same room, and there was like sheer curtains that were open, and there was a bed beyond it. And we sort of made eye contact and smiled, and I said hello. And weirdly, there was this awkward moment where like some other couple that my date knew sort of seemed to invite him to play. But I was like, no, I want to play with this other couple that we just met. so anyway, we made a choice, and we met these people, and they were really, really fun. So he was sort of soft-spoken, and she was super adorable and bubbly, and they were actually local, so they hadn't traveled, and they weren't staying in a hotel. And so we started fooling around, and it was great. And she was kind of awesomely vocal. Like, she was sort of narrating things. And so as she saw me and I was laying there and her husband was fucking me, she was like sort of narrating. She was like, oh, it's great, right? He's awesome. Isn't it awesome? And then she's like giving my date praise. And then my date and I were making eye contact. And it was just super amazing, actually. And the nice part was that after we finished, they were fun to hang out with for a little bit. Because sometimes you like finish and you realize you don't really have that much else in common with the people that you just had sex with, except for the sex. And that's perfectly okay. But it means that, you're probably not going to linger for super long after. So anyway, they were really adorable. And I remember she had this amazing makeup, and they were just really, really nice, and they were fun. And so afterwards we exchanged numbers, and we decided that if we had time, we might see them again. And I honestly had a long day of travel, and I'd had orgasms in my room, and then I'd had more orgasms now in the playroom, and I was tired. So we went back to the room and like attempted to play a little bit more, but I don't know that I was super duper fun because I was really exhausting. I was like, my date's kind of an animal. So anyway, I fell asleep and I slept really well. So that was night number 1. I think I'm going to continue with night number 2 in my next podcast. I just want to make sure that I am relaxed and have time for all the detail that I want to give you. Overall, it was a really amazing trip. I met some really great people. I got a lot closer to my date, and eventually I'm going to give him a name. But it was just really awesome. I had a really good time. So it was fun. It was just, the weather was nice. The people were great. There was amazing sex had. There were friends made. Like, it just really doesn't get a lot better than that. It was good times. And I am so looking forward to next year. In fact, I got a giggle because when I got home, my date told me, like a week after we got home, like, oh yeah, no, I already signed us up for next year. So I guess I can feel good that he also likes me, which is nice. So I look forward to many more adventures with him, and we can be sidekicks. So I will continue with the rest of my Naughty and Gnarlin stories on my next podcast. And yes, I look forward to telling you all of those stories. They actually get even more exciting. All right. Well, thank you for listening. You've been listening to the Brainy Fox podcast. If you want to find out all about me or hear the rest of my podcasts, you can visit me at my website, thebrainyfox.com. That should actually have all you need to know about me and any way to get in touch with me. So, thank you. See you soon.